Bruce is shot with a tranq by a sniper. At the same time, Blonsky rushes towards them, even against Ross's orders.
Blonsky, stand down. My daughter's in there.
When he enters, he tosses Betty aside and tries to force Bruce to transform.
Show him to me.
For the second time, Blonsky disobeys Ross's orders. He even injures his daughter and directly interferes with the mission. His lust for power and obsession with the Hulk have eroded his restraint and loyalty. He serves only his self-interests now.
Take this.
Ah yes, blankets. The perfect remedy for getting flung face first into a glass cabinet.
I will never forgive what you've done to him. You made him a fugitive. To cover your failures and to protect your career.
This implies the incident tarnished Ross's military career, so he dedicated everything to capturing Bruce and making Hulk the super soldier they were striving for, to make up for his failure and protect his career. This supports my interpretation of Ross's earlier line.
And something went very wrong. Or it went very right.
I wish this aspect of his character had been expanded on further. We know that Ross wanted to turn Hulk into a weapon, but the reasoning behind this has not been clear. If this selfish desire to make up for his failures had been made more explicit and had been explored more depth would be added to Ross's motivations. It would also help flesh out his character arc.
Don't ever speak to me as your daughter again.
It's only because you're my daughter that you're not in handcuffs, too.
You see, Betty tears down Ross's two main motivations. He wants to capture Bruce. Betty reminds him that it's only to cover up his failures. Ross wants to protect Betty. Her injury is his fault, and she is so upset with him that she doesn't even wish to be his daughter anymore. Ross is primed for his lowest moment. But this is weakened by the lack of exploration for one of these motivations. In the lab, Major Spar interrogates Stearns.
He was a freak accident. The goal is to do it better.
So Banner's the only one.
Why are you always hitting people?
What you gotta have Banner, I want that.
Listening in on their conversation, Blonsky realizes that Stearns is capable of replicating the Hulk. Blonsky's obsession with power has driven him to disobey orders, hurt civilians, and now attack his commanding officer. But why is Blonsky in this room anyway? I would imagine with his level of disobedience, he would have been put under lock and key. Unless we're supposed to assume he escaped. Later, when Abomination bursts from the building, one of the soldiers says,
Blonsky and the Major are still inside!
Implying that he was supposed to be there, and wasn't locked up at all, which I find hard to believe.
You look like you've got a little something in you already, don't you?
I don't think there's a better display of Stearns' character than this. He is so taken by his scientific curiosity that he seems to forget there's a gun in his face.
You've seen what he becomes, right?
I have. And it's beautiful. Godlike.
Need that. Make me that.
I think Blonsky's lust for power can be aptly compared to an addiction.
But you were afraid. You were like, you think we can do Junkie, Marvel, and everything? I was like,
yeah,
this is great.
This is Junkie 4.
This is like super Junkie.
Yeah, we're getting there now.
Like, actually, that's why I'm not cutting away, because I love it.
Blonsky forces Stearns to give him the power of the Hulk. Stearns does so by injecting him with Bruce's blood and exposing him to the same gamma radiation. I'm curious what this mutation will do to Stearns, both in terms of ability and personality. I'm sure we'll follow up on this. Eventually. Please? There is nice attention to detail with the glass of Bruce's blood. It says strength 14.56%, indicating that it's been heavily diluted. This explains why Stearns and Blonsky don't just die when getting it into their systems. The movie has made a big deal about the toxicity of Bruce's blood, so it's nice they addressed it. Blonsky becomes the Abomination and goes on a rampage. We follow the perspective of a group of soldiers reacting to the situation. A shaky camera struggles to keep track of Abomination as he bounds across rooftops and charges through cars.
This is exactly what it would feel like if something like this was happening in New York City, you'd be like, what the hell is happening?
What's going on?
This technique was similarly used for Hulk to convey the terror that comes from facing such a powerful creature. Although I don't think it's as effective here, it has less build-up and we already have a frame of reference in Hulk. The helicopter that Ross, Betty, and Bruce are taking out of the city gets contacted about the destruction.
Oh my god, who the fuck is that?
Booyah!
It may seem strange that as soon as he becomes Abomination, he goes on a seemingly mindless rampage. But there's a logic to it. He has just been granted this new godlike power, so he's testing it out. He wants to see just how strong he's become.
This is really character-defining stuff.
Yes.
He's enjoying himself.
Yeah.
We understand why he's doing that. Not because he wants to get to something. He's on a rampage. He's just testing
playing.
the machine, you know.
Yeah,
He's just
let's see what I can do.
throwing
Yeah.
cars. Yes, can. Check, check. Here. check, and two hand, and check. Boom. And he loves that.
This is the final step in Blonsky's moral degradation.
Give me a real fight!
This is a challenge directed at Hulk. Abomination makes a show with the rocket to demonstrate that he's beyond anything a normal person is capable of dealing with. If they want to stop him, they'll have to send in Hulk, and he will finally get his rematch and the chance to prove that he's the strongest.
Tell them to bring everything they got and head for Harlem.
It has to be me.
There's nothing more that Ross can do except fall upon the same tactics that have failed to capture Hulk in the past. When Bruce sees this, he immediately knows what he must do. Hulk is the only thing that can stop Abomination.
You have to take me back there.
What are you saying? You think you can control?
No, not control it, but I don't know, maybe aim it.
For the first time, he considers that Hulk could be used to help people, not hurt them.
Bruce sees what's happening, knows that the military can't do anything about it. For the first time in the movie, he's going to take the chance to willingly bring the Hulk out of him to face this creature.
I believe Bruce has tentatively come to accept Betty's view of Hulk. He and Hulk are the same, and since they are the same, Hulk will not abide by someone hurting innocent people. I wish it was made clearer that Bruce has come to this conclusion partly because of Betty. Prior to this scene, he was convinced Hulk was nothing but a monster, with Betty being the only one to push back against this idea. This scene doesn't address this. In fact, Betty argues against Bruce going to face Abomination. Mind you, this isn't out of character for her. She cares for Bruce and doesn't want him to get killed. But it does obscure the role she's played in bringing Bruce to this decision in the first place. I don't think this scene adequately emphasizes Betty's contribution to Bruce's character arc, although you might argue it doesn't need to.
You think you can control?
No, not control it, but I don't know, maybe aim it.
And what if you can't?
We made this thing. All of us.
I think it's interesting that Bruce chooses to share in the responsibility of Abomination's creation. And it's true to a certain extent. Ross is responsible because he gave Blonsky the super soldier serum and kept him around even though he promised to remove him if any side effects emerged. However, Bruce is also responsible. It was Bruce's overconfidence that led him to recklessly experiment on himself, creating the Hulk in the first place. The Hulk was this new power, this Promethean fire, that he had unwittingly unleashed upon the world. And now this power has ended up in the hands of a man like Blonsky, which is the last thing he ever wanted.
What Blonsky becomes is the embodiment of what Banner doesn't want to have happen, which is for this thing inside of him to be turned into a weapon. And yet, the only thing that they can put up against it is the equal and opposite force in a way, which is Hulk.
Bruce expresses this to Ross to convince him to let Hulk face Abomination. He is asking for a chance to amend a wrong he contributed to. It's a tactically smart way to approach the situation. Bruce could have doubled down on blaming Ross for causing this disaster, but that runs the risk of angering Ross and turning the man against him completely. Instead, Bruce chooses to humble himself and take some of the burden off of Ross's shoulders. This makes Ross more open to hearing him out.
Land us near it.
No, keep us high. Open the back door.
Ross agrees to Bruce's idea. There are multiple factors contributing to this decision. Ross has seen firsthand that Hulk values the lives of the innocent, particularly Betty. So, monster or no, he would have an interest in stopping Abomination. On top of that, this scene occurs shortly after Betty accused Ross of being haunted by his failures. If the Hulk is a failure, then the Abomination is a failure that eclipses it. Not only is Blonsky a giant rage monster, unlike Hulk, he actively enjoys hurting others. Ross will want to do all he can to rectify this. And throughout the movie, Ross has been torn between his want to protect Betty and his want to capture the Hulk. Prioritizing the latter caused him to fail in the former, and earned him Betty's contempt. So, he makes a different decision here. He decides the safety of the innocent, the safety of Betty, is more important than his self-interests. After 5 years of obsessively hunting the Hulk, and finally succeeding, Ross chooses to let him go. Like with Bruce, Betty has played a significant role in Ross's character arc, though I think her contribution is clearer in this case. Bruce goes to jump out the back of the helicopter.
You don't even know if you'll change!
Betty, I've got to try.
He makes a literal leap of faith. He doesn't know if the cure was permanent, so this may kill him.
Good stuff. He thinks he's cured. It was always important because
It's kind of almost there, isn't it? He's almost there.
Well, he's there. He thinks that's it. His trouble is behind.
He's willing to give up his happiness and risk his life to defend others. It's a trait of his seen all the way back in Brazil when he chose to help Martina over keeping a low profile.
He turns into the hero here. He might be cured. He doesn't know. He might transform. He might be cured.
But now he has to bring him back.
Well, he has to bring him back.
Yeah.
That's the real sacrifice.
Bruce plummets to the ground, and Hulk emerges from the rubble. Like a phoenix, he is reborn from the ashes. Maybe that's a stretch. Hulk and Abomination charge at one another. Hulk gets tackled, tossed, and dazed, showing that Abomination is stronger.
The problem with Hulk is that he's all powerful, that nothing can hurt him until, you present them with a real enemy, somebody who's as strong, maybe a little stronger, and also who's vicious and wants to hurt. Now you have a problem.
We had to create a character that was dominant to Hulk in almost every way.
I'd like to briefly discuss the differences in design between the two. Hulk is made to look distinctly human.
I wanted something really human. I wanted something really uber-human.
If you look at the television series, it was, of course, Lou Ferrigno, basically, 6 feet tall. If you look at the Ang Lee film, he was upwards of 15 feet tall, which I think in hindsight we think is a little too big. The separation between Hulk and humans is much too great there. So we firmly establish him as 9 feet tall in this film.
Abomination is made to look distinctly inhuman. Not that inhuman.
With Hulk, you can take a human and you can use them as reference. For Abomination, you can only do that to a certain extent, and then you've got to go off into crazy land.
But one of the major things that they told us was Abomination's this guy who's exploded out of his skin and his bones and muscles are, visible.
Upon gaining this power, Bruce is transformed into something godlike, yet still recognizably human. Blonsky, however, is transformed into something monstrous. He's bigger than Hulk. His bones stick out of his body in unsettling, unnatural ways. He's lost all his hair, giving him this freaky Goomba-looking head. And most horrific of all,
you don't have genitalia. Let's talk about that.
Symbolically, you might say their appearances reflect what is at the heart of each man. Bruce has a selfless desire to help others, so he becomes a super person with the strength to help people. Blonsky is addicted to power and wants to hurt others, so he becomes the monster he is deep down.
The Hulk is a steel ball. The Abomination is a cubic triangle. How does a steel ball fight a cubic triangle?
Now that I see what you're doing, I understand. See, and talking about, he's more of a triangle and he's more of a ball.
Seeing that Abomination is tougher than him, Hulk smashes a car down the middle and uses both ends as makeshift boxing gloves. Now his punches do more damage, and he's able to get a momentary upper hand. Throughout the movie, Hulk has shown himself to be surprisingly clever. At Culver University, he turns 2 torn pieces of metal into shields and weapons, which he used to fight against Blonsky and escape the sound cannons. Here, he does something similar. Contrary to popular belief, Hulk isn't just a dumb rage monster that knows how to punch hard and little else. He can assess a battle and utilize the environment to overcome obstacles. Like Bruce, he possesses ingenuity. I'd like to compare this scene to the scene at the cave. There, Hulk misunderstood the storm for an enemy, which tells us that he lacks knowledge. He doesn't understand what lightning and thunder are. Yet, he displays clear ingenuity. In D&D terms, he has high wisdom but low intelligence.
Give him some help! Which one? Help the green one, damn it! Which one do you think cut the other one in half?
Aren't they both green, though? If I were given this instruction, I wouldn't know which one he was talking about. The minigun rains fire on Abomination, and this is an incredibly stupid thing for them to do. Just how many civilians were killed in this reckless fire? Did the movie forget that these buildings have actual people in them? The reason they've decided to do this is because the movie needs the helicopter to catch Abomination's attention, so he can retaliate against it, putting Betty in danger, and motivating Hulk. This is also a clear way to show how Ross has changed as a character. Not only has he let Hulk go, but now he's actively helping him. But this makes Ross appear uncharacteristically incompetent. Abomination leaps at the helicopter, and Hulk makes a grab to stop him. The helicopter crashes onto the rooftop of an abandoned courthouse, killing and injuring the people within. Betty is relatively unhurt, and goes to help the injured Ross. Even though she told him never to think of her as his daughter again, she instinctively calls him Dad. Perhaps she appreciates his willingness to listen to Bruce. Or perhaps seeing him injured made her forget her anger. I think it's a little of both. The crash is treated with appropriate weight. People die. However, Betty coming out nearly unscathed seems unlikely given the damage dealt to those around her. It's convenient that this important character just so happened to survive. Hulk's expression conveys reluctance and weariness, but then he growls and rage returns before jumping back into battle. Hulk doesn't like fighting, but he will fight to protect others.
You don't deserve this power.
Abomination revels in the destruction he's capable of. He sees Hulk's reluctance for violence as a waste. Hulk has godlike power, yet he refuses to use it to its fullest potential. Abomination is dominating the fight, and it looks like Hulk will lose. But when Hulk looks at the helicopter, he realizes it's on the verge of being engulfed in flames, and that Betty is in danger. Similar to his battle against the sound cannons, he finds new strength. This is emphasized by the change in Hulk's eye color, something strongly associated with the state of his transformation. He pries away Abomination and goes to Betty's rescue. This moment acts as a response to Abomination's claim. While Abomination uses his power for a cruel, selfish purpose, Hulk uses his power for a righteous, selfless purpose. From a moral perspective, he has earned his power, while Abomination hasn't. This is why, even though Abomination starts out stronger, Hulk is still able to overcome him. And this also makes sense in the story. We've already seen that Hulk gains determination and strength to overcome obstacles when Betty is in danger. As the helicopter fuel catches fire, Hulk claps his hands, creating a wave of pressure that snuffs it out. Another clever play by Hulk, probably his greatest display of ingenuity.
General, any last words? Hulk smash!
This series of events comes off as awkward as fuck to me. The line,
"Any last words?"
is so cliche that I'm put off hearing it come from Abomination's mouth. I don't know why Blonsky would even care about getting Ross's last words. It's only there to set up Hulk's response, which is one of Hulk's iconic catchphrases. But I don't think it suits this version of the character. Hulk's first line of dialogue is... It's absent of the Hulk's trademark grammatical errors, and is evidence of a character who dislikes violence. It's strange for that sort of character to yell a catchphrase about smashing in broken English. I don't believe the laws of physics would allow this. And anyway, I don't think this is something Hulk would do. Rather than yell a catchphrase, smash the ground, and wait patiently for the path of the crack to reach Abomination, I think he'd just tackle him. Much quicker and less risky that way. And then there's the unbelievably convenient path of the chain. Not only does it miss the people Hulk is defending, but it comes back down and hits Abomination. This moment isn't earned. The idea seems to be that Hulk doesn't need to be a monster, but I don't think killing Abomination would make him one. Abomination is extremely powerful and extremely dangerous. It's unclear if there exists a way of containing him, as we've seen the military try and fail to contain Hulk throughout the movie. Killing Abomination might be the only sensible option given the circumstances. Also, Hulk has killed before, and the movie doesn't seem to think those deaths were entirely unjustified. They were done in self-defense and in the defense of others, just like this kill would be. Soldiers and police arrive on the scene to find Abomination defeated, and for the first time, the world sees Hulk as a hero. You know, it'd be really weird if the people of Harlem acted like this event never happened. Could you imagine that? Ross motions for the soldier next to him to lower his gun, and he doesn't stop Betty from approaching Hulk. Now that Abomination has been stopped, and Ross has gotten what he wants, there is the possibility for him to walk back his decision to let Hulk go. Yet, he commits to his choice, solidifying his character arc. A searchlight shines on Hulk, and he takes it as his cue to leave.
He's free, I mean, he's in control, and that was important to show that in one long, swifting shot.